All right. Good evening. This is another edition of the Wallace Way Show. Let's see. Happy New Year to everybody. This is January 6th, and I was browsing around. NBA is still popping off right now. College football is dying down. NFL is heating up, especially for my Washington football team. We finally made the playoffs. But I've been, watching a lot more college basketball now, trying to get back into it. And I'm not as biggest fan as I was when I was like 13, 14, when I used to skip school to watch the ACC tournament. I mean, we had people like Rasheed Wallace, we had Timmy Duncan and Wake Forest, Randolph Childress, had Curtis Staples in Virginia. It was a beautiful time back in the mid 90s when college basketball was at its peak for me. Now, a lot of people will say the 80s is more popular with the Big East, but I love the early to mid 90s with the Dookie teams, the Fab Five, and the Tar Heels and Kentucky. But so I wanted to reach out to this brother and get him on. He runs the college basketball eye test website blog, and it's just incredible, crazy knowledge, good intel. So let's introduce everyone to Matty D. What's up, brother?
Hey D, thank you so much for finding me on the blog site, collegebasketballeyetest.com, and for reaching out. This is great. Looking forward to this.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. So let me run down a little bit of bio for this brother. All right, so Matty D has an extensive career in the TV producer arena. He's produced in New York City, Time Warner Cable, Hearst TV. These are some mega big companies. He's now the owner of Matty D Media in Lawrence, Kansas, which is a small video production company. So please reach out and get your videos up because this brother knows what he's doing. And lastly, he runs the college basketball eye test blog, and it's a site. You know, moving forward now, everyone has a podcast, everyone has a show, everyone does 180 characters in Twitter, and a lot of people don't like to read. Let's just be real; they don't like to
Yeah.
read. But when you read good intel, like the way you deliver it, it's enjoyable to read. It's not a chore. It isn't reading like the Canterbury Tales in 10th grade. It's a very enjoyable read. So
I appreciate that, brother.
so you know what? Let's touch on the background real quick before we get into college basketball. Tell me about the TV production experience you have.
Yeah, right. Well, I appreciate that. So, I mean, I got interested in television production when I was in high school, and this is about 20 years ago. So, before social media, before the digital media era that we're, coming to you live with right now. And so, I went to school for television production and wanted to be a broadcaster, just kind of fell in love with producing, became a television producer, worked in the news, 24-hour news cable news arena for 10 years,
Mm-hmm.
and then launched my own company. I'm in the Kansas City area currently. I'm originally from New York, and last time I was in New York, I was in Albany, in the capital. So
Yep.
lots of political news happening, as we're aware of currently. So tapped into that world a little bit, and with the blog, it's just an opportunity, I think, to. I mean, I've harkening back to the days you were talking about, the glory days of the mid 90s. I was writing a blog the other day and looking back at, I mean, I have one, just to plug one of the articles that's up on the blog, all of the second generation talent right now, currently in the college basketball game. I mean, we could literally put together a roster of a dozen players right now and run with any program in the country. I mean, you're talking about Scottie Pippen's kid.
Mm-hmm. Ron
You're
Harper.
talking Ron Harper Jr., Frank Williams up at Illinois. He's got DeMonte Williams at Illinois, the Illini right now.
I remember him.
And these are players. These are players who are not only like playing D1 ball. These are players who are like contributing to tournament-bound teams, playing a pivotal role, starting. In Ron Harper Jr.'s example. It's like it's just amazing to look at. I mean, at one side of the coin, it makes you feel old, right? But I mean, I remember like one of my favorite college hoops teams was that the O'Bannon brothers over at UCLA and Toby Bailey, yeah, and Cameron Dollar. And I mean, that's what I
Who was
grew up.
George Zidek, the center?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I got
UCLA had squads back in the day. Now, we'll get into it later, but like some of these programs, I just don't. I don't know if it's me. Like maybe I've grown up and kind of grown out of it, but I don't feel them anymore. Like UCLA, like you said, that '95 team, the O'Bannons,
right.
great team.
You think you're not feeling like the pageantry or the tradition, or which part of it are you don't feel as carried over?
I don't really know. Like, my buddy, the guy who did the NBA Future show with, is a huge Dookie, right?
Right.
And I'm
Yep.
a Carolina fan. And I don't really even know some of these players. And I know they're great. Don't get me wrong. I know they're good. They're high school All-Americans. They average 90,000 points in high school. But I see them in college.
Right.
And first of all, they all weigh like 175 pounds. I call them the all treadmill team.
Exactly. Yep.
You get a tough bucket when you don't. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm just an old guy now.
Well, we are all getting old, especially with COVID. But yeah, no, it's interesting with Duke specifically. It's interesting how Coach K embraced the one and done era. Now, me being a Knick fan, we had a one and done player over there, but just getting that trio of players 2 years ago, but at the same time getting challenged by a team like University of Central Florida, you know what I mean? In that 1-8, you know what I mean? There are ramifications to not building that culture over a few years with your program.
I 1,000% agree. So let's hop into college basketball eye test. Let's talk about that March Madness new plan. I saw that came out early this week where they're going to do a bubble in Indiana. Kind of break that down for us. People don't really know.
Right. So what I know about it is that basically, I mean, the central offices for the NCAA are based in Indiana. So I think that's first of all, I mean, just logistically, that's going to help them out with the planning and with all the coordination in this wacky world that we're living in. Any hurdle that you can remove, any barrier you can remove, you know what I mean? Logistically, that's going to make it all more copacetic and easier for them to manage that event. But then when you just look at like a place like Hinkle Fieldhouse and Assembly Hall, and you have the state fairgrounds there. I mean, basically, if you look at the list, there's about 7 or 8 locations where they're going to be playing, and these are not run-of-the-mill gyms. These are like iconic places in the college basketball landscape. So that, as a fan, I'm excited to kind of learn more about that and see this event. I wouldn't be surprised if a part of this kind of starts. Necessity is the mother of invention, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if there's shades of this, in the future. I think that for some portions of this, it's going to make it a lot more convenient for the NCAA. But we'll see how this works. It's going to, obviously it's the center of the country. You know what I mean? So when travel does reopen up, they got a great thing going on there in Dayton with the First Four. I know that small event itself is a huge piece of the pie for the NCAA and for the college basketball tournament itself. So I'm kind of looking forward to it in a way as a fan, kind of learning more of the backstory of all these different iconic locations that are going to be part of the Indianapolis, because it's happening in Indianapolis and then just kind of like little day trips around Indianapolis. So nothing's going to be too far for the players to drive to kind of bubble with their own program in a way and kind of control the environment there. And then just like college football that we're seeing now, I believe the expectation is that family and friends, or just family, however they're going to manage that, will be able to be in the arenas. So.
No, I never thought of it like that, because in the media, this news story just dropped late last week or early this week, and I never thought about that aspect of it, like the logistics of it's going to be perfect. And like you said, moving forward, this is definitely in play.
Right.
Back in the day, in the 80s, they played at like Cold Fieldhouse. Well, that's in Maryland. That's where the stadium was. So they would play regional games there. And then now they're at the big arenas, Ford Field. They're at these massive 70,000.
Right.
I totally, that makes sense. So we'll be interested. I'm going to be watching no matter what, because it's the first week in March.
Yeah, Selection Sunday is going to be the same date as it was planned. So I think the timetable is not going to change. They're going to keep the Final Four is going to be in the first weekend of April, as it always is. So I think that was also a big piece, is just kind of having clarity now, rolling into the new year, having clarity that, hey, these will be the definitive dates for Selection Sunday on through March Madness, and fans can look ahead to that. And hey, book it, baby. We'll be all at home watching it, but exactly.
almost like the like I'm a fan of the Washington football team, and it's like every year I always say I don't care, I'm not watching it, and then come about 12:30 every Sunday, I'm like, damn, I'm going to watch it.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
It was, a lot of chatter has been going on with the postponement of the season due to COVID. What's your take on that? Because I saw Coach K basically saying, like, yo, we need to chill. We shouldn't be playing. I know Patino was like, let's move it to the spring I think the spring or the summer or something like that. What's your take on it and how's that flowing out?
Man, I think you have to really defer to what the kids want to do, honestly. And when you're talking about, I mean, we were speaking briefly off camera before we started this talk back, but we were talking about how there are so many D1 programs. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's more than 350 D1 programs, I believe, at this point. And so to get consensus among the student body what they want to do, I don't think that is reality is realistic. But at the same time, what I'm hearing from the coaches doesn't really sound like a consensus either, because you hear Coach K, I heard, when the pandemic just started and they had to cancel March Madness last year, just to paraphrase a soundbite I heard from him, and this is no disrespect to Coach K. I mean, obviously he's the best in the game, but I'm just going to call it what it is. Like he said last March Madness, he's like, basically, if we don't have this event next year, like college basketball will cease to exist from a financial standpoint. And all of your viewers, can look up that soundbite, that quote directly. You know what I mean? Go ahead and do your own legwork there. But I'm saying, like, he was basically saying, like, the financial grounds that this sport lives on is rooted on the tournament. And so if we don't have the tournament, it's going to cease to exist as an entity. And so then to fast forward to where we're at now, 10 months later. For him to kind of question whether it's happening, it's like, well, kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. So, I mean, I don't, for me, I think if you're a student athlete and it's not worth the risk for you. I mean, we've seen student athletes who aren't playing, and I think that's the spirit of the NCAA. There's a ton that the NCAA, in my opinion, gets wrong. I think that, it's long overdue that these kids are going to be able to make money off their name and likeness, for example. But one thing I think strongly they really did get right in this situation is giving all players an extra year. If you're a senior today, you have eligibility for next year. So that way, if you do opt out of this season, you don't lose, and you're a senior, you don't lose, a full year of playing. You're able to come back, God willing, in 2021, 2022 season and play in a safer environment, hopefully.
Yeah, no, that's another great point. It's just I see these postponements. I saw like Villanova has postponed the season like twice in the last week. Like it's just tough to get a rhythm like that.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah,
it's a war of attrition at this point. So we'll see how it ends up. But you touched on being a Knicks fan, and I'm sorry about that.
It's all good. We're
they go to Knickerbockers. No, they're doing pretty good this year. I have a good buddy of mine who we used to. I mean, I vividly remember going over to his house to watch the June 6th, 1994 Knicks versus Houston with the OJ trial with the OJ Chase.
You didn't say this was on the topic list, Wallace. So I don't know, D. You didn't say that.
This is like, I mean, this was so vivid. Like, we grew up together, so like we would watch the Knicks, and they were so exciting back in the day. But I wanted to touch on the one and done rule because this kind of touches on the NBA and touches on college. What's your take on the one and done? Where do you want it to go? And do you see it leaving in the next 3 or 4 years?
Oh man, that's a loaded question. As a college basketball fan, I actually don't mind like the dichotomy of you got a program like Kentucky, right? That they're the blue bloods. I mean, they're going to bring the most talented kids, to the table, whether it's a one and done or whether it's someone who maybe takes 2 or 3 years, take advantage of the program and develop in that way. I actually haven't minded really kind of seeing that dichotomy between like the great programs getting that one and done talent. And meanwhile, you have a team like Belmont, you have a team like Loyola Chicago, develop that team chemistry over 3-4 years with one solid nucleus, and then challenge, the blue blood program. So for me, just as a college basketball fan, because that's really my only, area of expertise here, just as a fan, I actually don't mind it. And, if I were to look back, like we mentioned, with Zion Williamson going to Duke, I think that was a surprise to some people that Coach K would embrace it in that way, the one and done player, the player that was obviously the one and done. But if I were to kind of look at my thought pattern before that, or a couple of years before that, I would have assumed that the one and done talents would kind of kill the game being so dominant. But there are some programs that I watch when they roll into March Madness. I wonder, is this player really focused on winning a national championship for his school, or is he really looking forward to NBA workouts and that sort of thing? So I think that the parity is still there for the college basketball game, as long as they don't tinker with the NCAA tournament, and they still let these smaller schools go in there, the conference champions go in there and compete. Then I think that parity just kind of finds a way, of finding itself in the college basketball landscape.
Yeah, that's a good point.
What are your thoughts on the one and done? You mentioned it before. Has it been a buzzkill for your enjoyment of the sport?
It's a buzzkill in a couple different ways. Naturally, I want the players to get paid ASAP. They deserve it. Like I look at a guy like Imani Bates. He's a junior this year, I think. In high school right now, I hate to say, but it's a waste of his time right now to be playing in high school. He's not getting better. He's not playing better competition. He's not training good. He still has to deal with geometry class. I get it. Don't get me wrong. I love education, right? But he has a special skill set. And, I'm a huge soccer fan. And they have these things called academies over there. Like Tottenham has an academy. So that's their farm system, basically, where they groom players.
Yep.
Look at a guy like Luka Doncic the last couple of years. He's been a pro. He was 14 years old.
Yep.
He understands the professionalism. He understands how to work on his body. He understands that this is a job in a sense. And yes, it's playing basketball, but it's his job. You look at a guy like LaMelo Ball. I'm a huge Ball family. So I don't know where we stand on that, but I'm a huge fan of the Ball family. And you look at him, and he's been a professional since he's about 16, 17. So he now is in the NBA, and it's a professionalism. He knows how to carry himself. He knows the media. He knows the ins and outs. The one and done, personally, I just think if you're good enough to go to the NBA, why can't I go? Like I don't understand it. Like Novak Djokovic when he turned pro. I don't know. So, but as far as
I think, I think the obvious elephant in the room is just racial equality and having sensitivities to that. I said it. Yeah. Hey. Well, I think that institutions are being forced to, compensate these players, and it's long overdue. And hopefully what's happening in this country and in this world in terms of awareness, hopefully that's, the agent for change,
Or just how about some dialogue, some discussion?
Right.
I understand it's going to take many, many years to figure this all out, but we have a lot of smart people, and they can figure this stuff out. All right, so we shall see. Let's talk about a little bit more about college basketball, the actual games right now. Give me 3 sleeper teams you got.
Okay, so what's your barometer for a sleeper? Do you want to look at some of the future values here, or how you want to do this?
This guy's a gambler. He gets my language. Let's just look at like a school like we know the Kentucky's, Michigan's, and I'm going to talk like a school like Michigan, who is a big school name, but not necessarily a massive name. Would you put them in your Final Four sleeper team?
Okay, so Michigan right now, I believe Michigan is one of a few, elite programs that are still undefeated. So, I would just have to kind of rule them out as a sleeper at this point. To give you said 3. You want 3 sleepers. So I started the season. One of the futures that I did invest in was Houston at 50-1. They brought back a slew of guards who can score. And they have a little bit of a nucleus that's shown success over the last. I mean, last year they played a really tough schedule. I can think about a BYU game that they played at home where it went down to the buzzer, and that was just, you watched it, and that was just an Elite Eight or Sweet 16 type of game. I think they have big time talent there, and they've jumped up to the 5th ranked team in the country. So I don't think that they're anymore. I don't think they're any longer a sleeper. But as we speak today, one of their star players, Caleb Mills, left the team for personal reasons. And I know Fabian White, one of their lone big men, kind of entering the season, he's also out for the year with an injury, I believe. So I'm not saying I'm jumping off the bandwagon on that team, but I don't think Houston is any more of a sleeper. So if you are checking out my blog and seeing that, I identified them early in the year as a sleeper. Right now, I think that their value is about where it belongs, in that 5 to 10 overall ranking.
I'm sorry, is Kelvin still the coach there?
Yeah, Kelvin Sampson is still the coach there at Houston. It's hard to believe. I believe this is his 7th year there, 6th or 7th year there. Oh yeah.
They're kind of shady, but listen, in that industry, you gotta be a little.
Yep.
It's just part of the game. I hated it. It's just part of it. He's a hell of a coach.
Yeah, you got to play inbounds, but you got to know where that boundary line is so you can tiptoe right in front of it. Yeah.
Well, where we grew up I'm in the DC area, so we had John Thompson. Like these guys kind of like maneuver the whole game around. All right, give me two more sleepers you got.
Okay, so looking at the futures, I'll use that kind of as my baseline right now. And I'm watching a ton of Big Ten. I think that's obviously the champion is going to play through the Big Ten or come from the Big Ten right now. I believe Joe Lunardi's bracketology as we speak has 4 2 seeds that are all Big Ten teams, including one you just mentioned, Michigan. But because I'm watching so much Big Ten hoops, I just watched Marcus Carr and the Minnesota Gophers the other night beat up on, I believe it was Iowa, and
Friday, was it Saturday or Friday night game?
I think it might have actually been one of the Christmas games, because what I normally do is I watch, I like to watch the full game and kind of get the context of everything that's happening, foul trouble, who's playing well, who may be under the weather, whatever the case may be. I got 2 little kids at home too, so I'm up late, watching these games on DVR if I can, and the Big Ten Network has got a good app where you can watch a replay. But either way, I watched that game, and Marcus Carr's got a nasty step back, man. He reminds me of watching Kemba Walker with UConn. That magical run they went on. They were 15-1 back then when they won the national championship with Kemba Walker about 8 years ago. And just watching Minnesota, they also have 2 transfers. They got a big man from Drake who's coming over. And he's a legit 7-footer, and does all the things down low, as a maintenance man. And they got the kid from Utah who's a point guard, who's also a transfer who played well for Utah. Utah was actually they overachieved last year, versus the preseason expectations. I forget the kid's name off the top of my head, but they have a nice roster. They got size, and I think they're going to be sleepy coming in. If you look at the Big Ten, just because of the way that the tournament is actually like the formula for which they put the tournament bracket together, like they can't have a Big Ten team play against another Big Ten team in the round of 32. Like that goes against how they actually formulate the bracket. So that means that just by default, you're going to have a Big Ten team that's underseeded as a 6, 7, 8, or 9 seed. Like that's just going to happen, whether it's Indiana or Minnesota or even a Michigan State, is possible this year.
Of course, nobody wants to play Michigan State. They'll get it together.
Yeah. Did you watch the game this week against Rutgers? Actually, they put it to Rutgers.
I like Rutgers. I did not see that. And back on the Minnesota thing, they also got speaking of father sons,
Patino. Oh, that's right. Yeah, they have. Yeah, that's right.
I missed Big Patino. He's coaching Iona, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, he's at Iona right now. Yep. Yeah, I forgot about Mashburn.
Yeah.
What did you think of that team? What did you think of that Kentucky team back during those 90s?
Man, listen. We used to skip school to watch the SEC, ACC tournament. Just forget the NCAA.
Yep.
Me and my brother and my buddies would just skip school. I mean, do you remember when Kentucky had the jean jacket warm-ups?
No, I don't remember that.
I want to say this was either 95 or 96. This might have been the year they won it, 96, when they played Mississippi. I forgot who they played in the final. The Mississippi State, I believe. But
oh man,
they had jean jackets as warm-ups, the flyest shit ever. It was so
wow.
But not huge Patino fan. We know he's shady as hell. Okay, I get
Yep.
it. I wouldn't trust him as far as I could throw him. As far as coaching a team and raising a program, best I've ever seen personally. Him and Jim Calhoun were the best. Jim Calhoun is so slept on as a great coach. I've seen him whip Coach K 2 times in the NCAA tournament. He slept on. He's one of the most slept on. And he's also a little shady too.
Yeah. Yep.
But he's an incredible coach. God,
so you're a Big East. You're. I got with roots on the East Coast. You're a Big East fan too. It sounds like myself. Yeah. Like
the Big
go
East
back.
Yeah. It's not like it. I'm talking about say I'm 39, so
yeah, I'm 37.
So we was like in the Iverson. You remember the Iverson versus
I remember the first time I watched Iverson play, man. That was a where were you moment. Like I remember watching him play. It was like the first time I saw him play was Georgetown. And I remember, and I remember I just remember him skipping around the court. I'm like, who is this kid? And he was really highly touted. At that point, I mean, I must have been man, I can't even think about. I was 11 years old. I mean, it's got to be. I can't do the math right here off the top of my head, but the point is, I was late to the party. You know what I'm saying? Seeing him on TV, but I was just like, wow, this kid is small, but he's ruthless. He's getting anywhere he wants to on the floor, any spot he wants to on the floor. And as a Knick fan, of course, I was a John Thompson fan and a Georgetown fan and just a Big East fan in general. So I mean, it was exciting to watch those teams. And then they had the who was the guy that ended up being a Knick for years? What was it? Junkyard Wallace?
Jerome Williams.
Jerome Williams, yeah.
Another great player, man. He was the Iverson, just like you said, he was only but 5'11", but he played like a 9-footer. Like his energy, his presence it's just undeniable. Some players are just undeniable when they're on the court. They don't blend in. It's just undeniability.
I remember the first time I saw him play. I remember where I was. I was at my friend's house watching it on a Saturday afternoon. And I remember the first time I saw. Oh my God, I'm having a blank. The kid who played on Memphis and won MVP with the Bulls. Oh man, I'm totally blanking. Derrick Rose. I remember the first time I saw him play. I was like, he got down the court in 3.5 dribbles, and I was like, full court. I'm like, who is this kid? He was just racing down the court, scoring at will. And that was when Calipari was still with Memphis. But yeah, man, let me round out your to answer your question though. Another sleeper that I like is Colorado right now, 100-1. I'm definitely partial to point guards, but McKinley Wright the fourth over at Colorado. That's a guy nationally who really gets no love. Watch this kid play. Watch this kid close out games. He's nasty.
I'm gonna definitely take a look at. I saw them. They were on TV. Did they play USC?
Yeah, they played. They played USC recently, and they did a double dipper against UCLA, where they split with UCLA. But Colorado, they lost to Tennessee, and actually, if you check out the highlights of that game against Tennessee, Tennessee was dominating that game, and Colorado came storming back. So they got some shooters. McKinley Wright, like I said, I mean, he's just kind of one of those court general types. He reminds me kind of like Chauncey Billups. You know what I mean? He's not a scorer. He's not looking for his own shot, but he can score and he can embarrass you if he needs to.
So. No doubt. I'll definitely take a look at that. All right, let me touch on a couple more things here because I know you got to get going. Talk Tell me about the Terps in Georgetown. Like I said, coming back from this area, they're the Terps are okay. They're a solid program.
Yeah.
They're not terrible. Georgetown's just terrible.
Yeah.
What is it going to take to get these programs back? Now, prefacing it with the DMV has the most high school talent, or at least top 2 or 3 places in the world. I mean, literally, the Terps, the math is like 20 minutes away.
Yep.
Literally, they have the best high school teams in the country.
Yeah.
We're not getting them. Hunter Dickinson, another Big Ten freshman of the year.
Michigan.
Why aren't we getting these kids? And what's it going to take to get Georgetown and the Terps back to a national prominence?
Well, let me ask you, what is Mark Turgeon's reputation there, and what is Patrick Ewing's reputation there? Because as a national observer, it seems like they're representing the brand of their university well. They're competitive. I don't know that they're really game-changing coaches.
Okay, Turgeon. Here's the big thing that happened. Gary Williams hated the AAU, that relationship, and as you know, AAU is the lifeblood of college basketball.
Yep.
You have to sell your soul a little bit to get in with them. He didn't want to do that. Maryland has never really had a good relationship. And I tell you when it started. And this is a little bit before our time, but the Lynn By situation.
Okay.
The local kid from PG County, and we all know what happened. Their relationship never really clicked again after that, and that's 30 some odd years ago.
Yep.
Now, getting back to Georgetown, as you know, Georgetown is like an Ivy League level school. It's tough to get kids in there.
Yeah.
Now, I don't want to say it like that, but I've seen Georgetown turn down 4.0s. Okay, and that academic part has to play a role. I'm sorry, it plays a role. Ewing is a really nice man, great player, all-timer, possibly the greatest college player ever.
Exactly.
But he's 55 years old. It's a whole generation that probably don't even remember him playing.
Yeah, that's the thing. So that's the thing. I mean, I already showed the flag here. I mean, my allegiance to the New York Knicks and that 93-94 team with John Starks as my main man. I mean, that's one thing. That's one love and one passion all in of itself. But I mean, for me to assume that Patrick Ewing can go out there and coach college kids in the year 2021, I mean, that's a whole different animal. And, you see a kid like Matt McClung, depart to go to Texas Tech,
Did they win? I didn't catch that.
I did not see last night's game. No, but and then Aquino, the point guard that they had last year, who, a lot of talent, looked like he was a little, kind of all over the time. They would have some games with a lot of turnovers, so I don't know where his head was at all the times, just in general. But I mean, you see players leave Georgetown after 1 or 2 years, and you just kind of wonder what's going on there with the coaching staff.
1,000% agree. I hope it works out. Because we love Pat. Like, people in our generation, he was Mr. Nick. Like, he was shit. And hope it definitely works out. So lastly, before I get you out of here, give me your 2 favorite broadcast teams to listen to.
Oh man, Fran Fraschilla is the best color commentator right now. Currently, I mean, his depth of knowledge is unbelievable. You watch him start talking about a game, he'll be like, now D, Matt DeSaro's pretty good, but his sister now, she's been running game at the local YMCA, and she can play both the 1 and the 2 guard. And she's been mixing it up as a combo, embarrassing, men, women, and children at the local Y. So I would look out for her coming through 6th grade. Like his depth of knowledge on.
Fran is a beast. Who else you got?
I mean, Gus Johnson, I don't know how many games he's doing nowadays, but I mean, he's, especially as a Knick fan, I mean, he's the #1 color commentator. He and Bill Rafferty for college basketball. I mean, that's where the bar is currently set. But just kind of as a weekly viewer, Fran Fraschilla is my go-to guy. His wealth of knowledge is just unbelievable. So if you're not,
no, sorry, what'd you say? I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, I was going to say, if you're not already following him on Twitter, go ahead and follow Fran Fraschilla, because he shares some of that knowledge on Twitter as well. So he's a great follow as well.
He knows his shit. And he knows
Not that he needs a plug from me, but I mean that guy just knows his stuff.
What's your take on Billis? You a Billis fan?
So I mean, Jay Billis is not he's not my style. You know what I mean? Like I respect him, but I don't have as much fun watching a game, with him calling it and like the way he kind of, especially this year. I think he's kind of
He pontificates.
Yeah, he's showing he's showing his prowess right now as an attorney or and so he gets into the legalese a lot of the NCAA and protocol policy and I respect his knowledge, but at the same time, it's not as fun to listen as Fran Fraschilla or Bill Rafferty or Onions, double the order.
And they started minute it. Man, Raph Raph needs to be protected. Okay?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And what about Bill Walton?
Oh man, yeah, Bill Walton. That it's fitting because I'm sure you're the same way. If you're watching a Bill Walton game, it's like 10, 11 o'clock at night. So you're already winding down. So the fact that he's taking, space journeys to Mars and Venus and whatever worlds he's creating in his mind, I guess you don't really mind that at 10 o'clock on the East Coast as you would maybe 7 o'clock. You just wind down for dinner. You might not be at that speed just yet. So he kind of fits the moment on the late night West Coast games.
That Oregon versus Oregon State game might need some spice. So thank you, Bill. We really appreciate you. Awesome, Matty D. Thank you so much, brother, man.
Hey, D, thank you so much. Let's do this again sometime. You're welcome anytime on the flip side on my YouTube channel. So I appreciate your time. Appreciate the invite. Good conversation. We just hit the tip of the iceberg on some of this.
Oh, we could go on. Because we're from that same era, so we can still flow and hit the touch points indefinitely. But listen, man, thank you so much. We definitely got to get up for another March Madness preview in a couple weeks, or I guess a month or so. So definitely, man, look forward to hearing from you. And go to the blog. Plug your blog again, bro.
It's collegebasketballeyetest.com. And Wallace, thank you so much, man. Good luck to you. Good luck to everyone in the DC area right now. Let's stick together. You know what I mean? But good luck to you, and good luck to your channel, and thanks for everything you're doing. I love the content you're putting out there. So keep up the good work, and thank you so much for the invite today.
No doubt. And we're signing off, everybody. Peace. Yo, man, that was dope, bro. Thank you so much, man.